Dear friends, in the Bible, dinner refers to fullness of life God offers. Fullness of life or the life of abundance, John 10:10, refers to a life that has no dearth of joy, happiness and fulfillment. It is this type of joy and happiness that is not much affected by the external vagaries of life, by external ups and downs of daily events. St. Paul in today's second reading says that he had attained that stage of life. In any and all circumstances, I have learned the secret of being well fed and of going hungry, of having plenty and of being in need. When we look at our own lives, we do know that our lives are far from that. However, today's readings give us hope that such a fullness of life is possible and God is ready to offer us such a life of abundance. Isaiah speaks of two ways through which God offers such a life of abundance. First, by destroying the shroud that is cast over all peoples, the sheet that is spread over all nations. Secondly, by wiping away the tears from all faces. We shall reflect them one by one. Firstly, he will destroy the shroud that is cast over all peoples. Isaiah says, God will destroy on this mountain the shroud that is cast over all peoples, the sheet that is spread over all nations. The word shroud or veil has got a significant meaning in many spiritual traditions. For example, according to the Advaitic tradition of India, truth is the deepest reality. But this truth is covered by a layer of veil, which according to it is appearance. According to Advaita, people who are in ignorance are caught up in the world of appearance and consequently they suffer a lot. Only those people who have got the real guts to go beyond this layer of veil, namely the layer of appearance, will find the truth and experience profound joy and lasting happiness. Let us try to understand this point a little more concretely. God is the truth and He alone can offer us the fullness of life. This material world is the veil which outwardly covers this truth. There are many people who are caught up in the pleasure this material world offers. In the name of looking for happiness, they get into a rut of suffering and sadness. They are the ones whose happiness is affected and determined by the external ups and downs of life. So when it is said that God will destroy the shroud that is cast over all peoples, it means that God will make people understand the futility of seeking happiness in the material realm. We all know that Jesus loudly proclaimed this truth when He said, "Take care, be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of possessions." Luke chapter 12, verse 15. Secondly, He will wipe away the tears from all faces. Isaiah in the first reading says, "Then the Lord God will wipe away the tears from all faces, and the disgrace of His people He will take away from all the earth." When it is said that God will wipe away our tears, it simply refers to the fact that He is always ready to take part in our suffering and remove it. What kills many of us is not the external problem, but the feeling that there is nobody, not even our family members, who understand us and accept us during the moments of suffering. It is this feeling of loneliness that makes people feel worse than the problem itself. There are many people who say, if only some people are ready to stand by me always, I can face any problem of my life. Today God tells us, "I am with you whatever your circumstances are and whatever you are." God assures His ever-abiding presence and unflinching support all through our life. He is always ready to wipe away our tears and stand by us during the moments of suffering. And finally, my dear friends, let us reflect over our response to God's invitation. While the first reading assures us that God is ready to offer us the fullness of life and is ready to do whatever that is necessary, Jesus in today's Gospel points out that our cooperation and our affirmative response to God's invitation is at most important in this regard. An attentive reading of today's Gospel will reveal to us that those people who did not want to take part in the banquet had in fact accepted the invitation earlier. That is why it is said, He sent His slaves to call those who had been invited to the wedding banquet. Once again, we read the words of the king to his slaves, Tell those who have been invited. It means that those people who had given their consent earlier failed to turn up when it came to the actual banquet. It was very much true with regard to the Israelites. They had given their consent that they would follow Yahweh always. That is why they said, The Lord our God we will serve and Him we will obey. However, we do know that when it came to actual life, they failed in this regard. Though they had accepted that they would cooperate with God's effort in actual day-to-day life, they failed to do so. My dear friends, it can be said that we are not much different from the Jews or the Israelites. We too have said a yes to God's invitation to a life of fullness and holiness through our baptism. But when it comes to actual life, it's a question mark whether we respond to God's invitation at all. By doing all the things contrary to God's will, we go on rejecting His invitation for a life of fullness. Let us end our reflections with a prayer by Ansari of Heart, a 11th century Sufi poet. O Lord, give me that right discrimination, that the lure of the world may cheat me no more. Give me strength that my faith suffer no eclipse. Amen.